Hello and a very special warm welcome to you for yet another fascinating episode of Influences of Times. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in and for watching as I continue to go in search of Britain's most abandoned and derelict places. And as you can tell just by looking behind me, we are at our next location and all will be revealed very, very shortly. So just bear with me. Now, for those of you who are watching for the very first time, if you've never watched anything like this before, if you've never watched Influences of Times before, a very special warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining me and for tuning in and for watching in this special live episode in this fascinating series that I'm currently doing, as I'm doing a live documentary social media series into Britain's most abandoned and derelict places. So a very special warm welcome to you. And if you are wondering what all this is about, and if you'd like to know more about Influences of Times, then don't worry, because there are plenty of ways that you can stay in tune and keep up to date and catch up with all of Influences of Times locations in the episode right up until today. So if you are interested and you want to know more, and you'd like to find out more about Influences of Times and what it's all about, there are some very quick, easy ways that you can do so. You can join our Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and log into or join, if you type in Influences of Times, you can join the Influences of Times page, and on there will be all 28 episodes of Influences of Times, including today's, along with all the photographs and all the historical information where possible about each place that I've been to so far. You can also join the YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, and again, if you type in Influences of Times, again, you can watch all the episodes right from episode 1 right up until today's episode. So you can catch up with everything on our YouTube channel. Or you can go to a blog if you'd like to know more about Influences of Times, how it all started. And if you're interested in the photography side of things, then you can go to our blog, our brand new blog, which is influencestimes.blogspot.co.uk, and on there will be some photographs. Now, bearing in mind that our blog is actually quite new, so some of the photographs are quite from the past kind of episodes, and I'm kind of updating it every couple of days or so. So if you'd like to join our blog, you can do, and catch up and keep in touch with Influences of Times through our blog instead. Now, if a website is your thing, then you can quite easily go to our website. If you go to my Camdrone Photography website page, which is all the W's, camdronephotography.co.uk, on the homepage you'll see a heading saying Influences of Times, and that's a page dedicated to this series. And if you click on there, you will be able to look at every single location that Influences of Times has been to so far in the series, along with all the photographs and all the historical information about each place. So there's plenty of ways that you can keep in touch and stay in tune with Influences of Times, and as we continue to go in search of Britain's most abandoned and derelict places. So as always, thank you to you for joining me today. And just to give you a little bit of an update, for those of you who have been keeping up to date, and for those of you who have been watching the Influences of Times series, now, I did post on Facebook just a couple of days ago that we would be visiting an abandoned and derelict place. And I didn't give any indications of when or where that place was going to be. Now, on Monday, which was the 24th of April, so literally just a couple of days ago, Influences of Times went to Doncaster. Okay, so we travelled just over 95 miles north of Birmingham up to Doncaster to go to our 29th location, to bring you our 29th episode in the Influences of Times series. However, unfortunately, when we got to the location, they'd already begun to start clearing that particular location out, so we were unable to bring you that broadcast, and in fact I wasn't even able to take any photographs. So unfortunately, we were unable to do a broadcast or anything from that location. However, I've brought you to this place. Now, this is kind of the backup plan. Now, as with Influences of Times, as with any abandoned and derelict places, it's uncertain as to whether you can actually take photographs and do a live broadcast from that particular location. It's just one of those things. It's kind of a gamble in a way. So you just kind of have to take it as it comes. But unfortunately, we weren't able to bring you that broadcast. But I'm hoping that you'll find today's broadcast just as interesting. Now, you'll have to forgive me if it's a bit shaky. I'm a little bit cold. It is fairly warm, but I'm a little bit chilly, so bear with me if it's a bit wobbly and a bit shaky. But because we weren't able to bring you that broadcast, that's why I brought you to this one instead. So today's episode is episode 29. Okay, now it's the last episode of series 1. So the next episode that we'll be doing will be episode 30, and that will be the start of series 2. Okay, so this is episode 29 at the end of series 1, and we'll be doing series 2, episode 30, very soon. So I'm kind of hoping that today is going to make up for it. Now, like I said, you'll have to bear with me. I did bring my tripod, but I just thought it'd be easier to carry you instead. So it just makes it a little bit easier to try and manoeuvre a tripod around the place. Now, I have been given special permission to film here today. Okay, so I've been given permission to do some filming here today. But yes, I've brought you to this place. Okay, now then. So, where am we? Well, I've brought you to this magnificent place. Now, even though this isn't an actual abandoned and derelict place as such, it still is ruins in a way. Now, I did mention at the very start of the series that I know not only would we be covering abandoned and derelict places, but we would also be covering some of Britain's most abandoned and derelict and ruined castle and abbey ruins as well. And if you cast your minds back, in fact last November, I believe it was last September, October, I think it was last November, November of last year, we did a live broadcast from Samuel Valley's monastery priory, or what's left of it. And so I've brought you to this place because I did want to capture some of Britain's most abandoned, derelict and ruined abbey and church ruins and castle ruins and things as well. And I know we've done Clophill Church, and we did Munsdon Chapel in Bedfordshire and kind of the Hertfordshire area last year. So I've brought you to this place. Okay, so where am we? Well, before we start, can I just say thank you for joining me, and welcome to episode 29. Okay, so welcome to episode 29, the last episode of the first series. So without further ado, I welcome you to episode 29, to this beautiful place. As you can see behind me, I've brought you to Shropshire. So I don't know how many miles away we am, but I've brought you west of Birmingham, and we're in Shropshire. In fact, we're a couple of miles away from Telford. We're about 7 or 8 miles away from Telford, and I brought you to this beautiful place. So welcome to Buildwas Abbey in Shropshire. Okay, so that's where we am today. So let me just give you a little bit of historical information first, and then we'll have a bit of a look about. Okay, so that you can have a really good look. And I'm just going to show you, actually, if I just hold the camera up, I'll just give you a bit of a look as to where we am. I've taken plenty of photographs, both in and around this site today. So all the photographs, along with the information, as always, will be on my Facebook page, the website page. It'll all be on there for you to read about. Now, I'm hoping we're not going to get disturbed too much. There's a couple of people here today, but as I mentioned, I've been given some but I've been given permission to do some filming here today. So I'm just going to walk back this way because there's some people behind us, but we'll have a good look about it in a minute anyway. But I just want you to kind of see this place. But yes, I brought you to Buildwas Abbey in Shropshire. So let me give you some historical information. This abbey was originally built in 1125, which will give you an idea of just how old this abbey is. I have to say, even though it's taken me a long time to get here, I've literally had to walk all the way from Telford all the way out to this place, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in a way. It's taken about 2.5 hours to walk to this place, but I have to say it's worth it because it is a staggering, absolutely beautiful abbey. And as I mentioned, you'll be able to have a look at it, and I'll take you into all the bits and pieces. But you can see, if I just spin the camera around, I'm just walking this way because there's some people taking pictures and kind of walking about a bit, so I don't want to get in their way. But you can kind of see just by looking behind me, this abbey is absolutely huge, and it's a beautiful place. So let me give you some historical information. I'll give you something to look at as well, so you're not just looking at nothing. I'm going to try and hold my hand still because my hands are still a bit shivery. So this abbey, as I mentioned, was built in 1125. There's not a lot of information, but I'll give you what I know, and then we'll just have a look about. Okay, so 1125 is when this was built. It's right on the border of the Shropshire Welsh border. Okay, so it's kind of Powys way, in a way, which is quite north of Wales. So we're right on the English Shropshire Welsh borderline, if you like. And the only information that there is was that, as I mentioned, it was from 1125. Now the stonework, all the stones used to build this abbey are from a place called Bordesley. Now Bordesley's fairly close to where I'm standing right now. It's not that far away, but I don't know how far away it is, but it's a fairly short distance away. So all the stone was brought from Bordesley, and those stones were used to build this abbey. Now, all it says is that up until something like, I think it was 1406, there was a lot of this abbey has witnessed quite a lot of different kind of acts of different things, and in particular a murder and stuff like that, but I'll go into that in a little while. Like I said, there's not much information, but I'll try and remember what I've literally just memorised everything. So in 1406 this was subject to a lot of theft. It doesn't specify what kind of theft, but this particular abbey was subject to a lot of theft. And in 1406 there was a group of people, it doesn't specify where they were from, but they were from Wales somewhere. They actually came here and stole some things from this abbey, and in particular they tried to steal, and in fact what they did is they kidnapped the abbot. Okay, so they kidnapped, in 1406 they kidnapped the abbot from this very abbey. So that's all the information there is about then. Now, earlier than that, in 13 something, I can't remember the exact date, but in 13 something, I think it was something like 1326 or something like that, a monk, his name was Thomas Tong, he actually committed a murder here. So he committed a murder here. He managed to evade arrest and basically got away with it. I know that's a bit vague, but I'm just trying to memorise everything. There's really not a lot of information to give you, but that's kind of what happens. You've got two things. You've got 1125 is when this abbey was built, from stones from Bordesley. In 1406 was when there was a lot of theft, and in particular the theft of the abbot from this actual abbey. And in 1325, 26, something like that, one of the monks here, Thomas Tong, actually committed a murder and evaded arrest and actually got away with that crime altogether. Now, Henry VIII did kind of, if you like, close a lot of the abbeys, in particular this one. There was a reason why he did that, but Henry VIII closed this in, I can't remember the exact date, but I know he closed a lot of the abbeys in an act of something. It says what it was for, but I can't remember the exact name or title that it was given, but there was a reason and purpose why he did that, and this was one of the abbeys that was closed. Now this has been, if you like, disused since I think it was like 1525. Okay, so since 1525 is when this abbey ceased to be used, and since then it's been kind of left, if you like. Now it has been bought, and there is a family who live just over there. You can't really see, I don't know if you can see the tops of the houses, just over there, and there's like houses, one or two houses and things. They've kind of built, if you like, their home and things that side, and I believe that they're the family who may be connected to the third of the, I think it was something like the Earl of somebody, so they may be connected to that, I'm not sure, but there's a family who live there, and it's kind of been running in the family ever since, and this is what's left. This has obviously been taken over by the English heritage, so this is part of the heritage as well, but just to kind of give you an idea. Now, I know that information is quite vague, as I mentioned, but that's all the information there is. It doesn't really say anything else. Those kind of 3 or 4 kind of incidents, if you like, or those 3 or 4 kind of like facts, if you like. But that's about it. That's all there is to give you, really. But I just wanted to bring you here today simply because we weren't able to do that live broadcast on Monday from Doncaster. Like I said, the place, I'm not going to name the place, but we were just unable to do a broadcast from there altogether, so I thought I'd bring you here instead and do one of Britain's most, if you like, abandoned, derelict, ruined abbeys. So what I've done is I've actually memorised the map. Okay, so I've memorised, if you like, the artist's impression, the closest artist's impression to what this abbey would have looked like. Okay, so I'm going to kind of take you around and show you a bit. There's not lots to see, but there is quite a bit to see, and you can see, and we'll actually go in there in a minute and you'll be able to see. So I'm actually standing in the back garden. Believe it or not, I'm actually standing in the garden. Now if you look just behind me, can you see this square wall? If I just show you that, look, can you see it runs up there, up the top? It's like a big square shape, and it comes back down that way, all the way down, back across that way. So this is the garden. Now this garden was covered in herbs and flowers, okay, and they were made into tiny little squares. So if you can imagine this square with lots of little square borders inside, some of the little square borders had little crisscrosses in the middle. I think that was quite typical, if you like, of that kind of age. There were lots of they made their flower borders into patterns, sometimes swirls, but crosses and squares were more kind of easy, if you like, to manage, I suppose, and do. But that is where the back garden would have been. So in there would have been lots of herbs and lots of flowers and lots of things that they are cultivating. I don't know if there was vegetables in there. There may well have been vegetables in there because there was a dormitory here. So there may well have been vegetables in that patch of grass. But that is what's left of the garden. Nothing apart from just a lawn. Now if you look behind me, there, it's just like a long rectangle well. And I'll take you over to have a look so you can see what I'm talking about. Now it's labelled the Lay Brothers Range. Now it doesn't. That's all it says. Now it's possible this could have been where horses would have been kept. But if I show you what I mean, it's a large rectangle. It's part of the abbey, a large rectangle area, just that runs the full length. So in there could have been straw, hay. It could have been not a barn as such, but maybe some kind of brick. Something to keep things like horses and carts, stables, maybe something in there, but it just says the Lay Brothers Range, so it doesn't really say anything more than that. So I don't really, that's quite kind of vague, if you like. It's quite vague. We can see it's a really large area, but I just want to give you a look at the abbey. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful abbey. It's probably one of the most beautiful abbeys I've ever seen. Now I know that there's another abbey not far away from here. Well, I say not far, it's quite a way, and we're not going to be, thankfully, I'm not going to be walking all the way there. It's on the opposite side of Telford, and it's called Lilleshall. I believe it's called Lilleshall Abbey, which is slightly smaller than this one, but I thought I'd bring you to this one simply because this has got the most to see, and probably the most preserved. This is one of the most preserved. I think it's something like 9th or 10th century abbeys left. Okay, so this is one of the most preserved that still remain. Okay, 9th, 10th century, which is just extraordinary. And to think that I'm standing on grounds where in 1125 this would have been built and people would have been here. But that's what's left of that. But you can see actually the abbey. So let's head up in towards the abbey because there's quite a bit. Well, there's a little bit to show you. And like I said, I have looked at the map and kind of memorised everything. So let's go and let's have a look. So we're just walking alongside the garden. So remember, I said the garden was here. So you got almost like the stones here. Look, this is like the entrance into the garden. So this square patch is the garden. And like I said, you've got the range, which is that bit at the back now. There's nothing further back there apart from just a nice lawn. But you can see the abbey, and we'll go and have a look at that in a minute. Now, you wouldn't think it. This abbey, even though there is quite a lot left, there is an extraordinary amount of this abbey that is no longer existent, simply because it was made in lots of neutral coloured wood. Now, not only was it made out of the stone, as you can see it's still left, but it was made from an awful lot of wood, a lot of brown and bronze and red coloured woods. Now, whether they dyed it, painted it, I don't know, but it does show that this abbey was made with an awful lot of wood, which, as you can imagine, it's all decayed and gone. Above, see those small windows at the top, that was another level. So you've got this level here, and above them you've got those little windows. That's the second level. Now up there would have been a roof, and that would have been the next level, and then there would have been the roof on top of that, like a standard roof, like your V-shaped roof. So that would have been up there. So the first floor, another floor up there. Now up there would have been chairs and kind of like recreational, if you like, but that would have been up there. It would have been a viewing gallery was up there as well. So that would have run up the top there. So the second level would have run at the top. That's what's left of the tower. So that would have been the tower. And you can you see the shape? If you look on the sides of the tower, can you see the shape of the roof? So the second floor, as I mentioned, would have been there and on top of this bit here. And then you've got, that is what's left of the V-shaped roof that would have sat on that. And the tower would have gone a little bit higher. A little bit high. Now it wasn't a clock tower. I don't think it had a flag. From what I can make out by the very, very early pictures, it didn't have a flag. It was always an open kind of tower. I don't think there was a roof on it. I may be wrong. But all the photographs that I've seen that go way back, and the artist's impression suggests that there wasn't a roof. But it's speculation. There could well have been a roof on there. But that, you can see, is what's left of it. So let's go into this bit. So we're now walking towards the front of the Abbey, and then we're going to go across and into the main section. So let's head this way. So we're now walking. So let's just give you one last look. So you can see it's quite. So you can see the square shape of the garden would have been there. So this is the parlour. We're now walking into the parlour. And it's not very big. You can see, if I just turn around, you can see it's not very big. So you can see it? So that is the parlour. And the parlour was used for, it doesn't really give a lot of information about what the parlour was used for. But you had, cooking was done in there, so you had a little bit of cooking done in there. You also had straw and hay and bales and that kind of thing. And it was kind of like it says parlour, but it was kind of like a storage area, because it's quite a small. You can see it's quite a small room. If I just bring you back up to it again, you can see it's quite a small room. The door's just there. I don't know if I can bring you inside. I don't know if it might be a bit too dark for you. Oh, there you go. So you can see. So you can see it's quite small, but look at the stonework. So this is the parlour, but yes, this would have been just used for things like storage, a little bit of cooking in here. There would have been when they caught things like rabbits and stuff, they would have been brought in here and sort of prepared, if you like, for meals and that kind of thing. But it was just a very small area, so it wasn't big enough for cattle. Nobody slept in here. It was just kind of like a parlour area, so it was just more of a storage area for things like straw and hay and that kind of thing. But it was done in here. But you can see the stonework. It's just remarkable. It's absolutely beautiful. And to think that this is from 1125, it's absolutely staggering. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. So I just turn back around that way because it's a bit dark. But you can see what I'm talking about. This is quite a small kind of place. It's like a small room. But yeah, so it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. We walk right to the end. I'm hoping the signal's going to stay and we're not going to lose signal. So there's nothing else here. Now, that's not a doorway, that's just bricked up. So that might have just been a little kind of archy way. But that's as far as it goes. It's just a small parlour area where things were prepared. It suggests that things like garden material, like garden tools or utensils were stored in here. So it's almost like a shed, if you like, if you think of a modern day shed, this was kind of what it looked like in 1125. So it was kind of like a storagey thing, room. It's very vague. It's the only thing about these abbeys, sometimes there just really isn't a lot of information, but there you go. But you can see what it's like anyway. So that's the parlour. So let's go into the next room. So we've come back out and let's go into the next room. Now, I'm going to stand here and just let you look behind me. Now, if you look up there, what's left of it, can you see? It's obviously quite ruined. Up there, above these archways, literally just up there, straight up there. So if you look on the top there, on the roof, if you like, that was the dormitory. That was the actual dormitory for staff and the people who not only worked here but worshipped. Well, I say worshipped here. I suppose some worshippers may have lived here, but that was the staff dormitory up there. Now there's nothing left. There's absolutely nothing left whatsoever, and you can't go up there. There's just nothing left. It's completely deteriorated, and again that was simply because it was all made from wood framed, just beautiful wood, and it's all decayed and gone. So much of this abbey, I was talking to the gentleman earlier who works here, and so much of this abbey has gone simply because it was all made out of wood. And he said it's such a shame, even though there's a lot to see here, just all the wood panelling, he said that just all the wood is completely gone. But that up there would have been the dormitory, so that's where staff would have lived, on top of there. Can you imagine living up there? Kind of living up there out here. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that these trees weren't here, but around 11:25 they probably weren't. It was probably just fields and countryside, I guess. But can you imagine living out here and living up there? What it would have been like? They obviously would have just had, I don't know, cloth, I suppose, and straw and hay and things to sleep on. It would have been really cold. I mean, but yeah, that's what's left of the dormitory up there. Now let's go into this place. This is called the Chapter House, and this is beautiful in here, and I'll give you an idea of what this was used for in a minute. But let's just go down the stairs and have a look at the Chapter House. So let's come down. Now, if I just show you, I'm going to just literally show you, because this is quite something. I love this. This is absolutely beautiful. And it's a bit dark, but we'll go in, and you can have a look in a minute. But you can see, if I just move this way, if I come out the way of the daylight, there we go. Now you can see. Have a look. This is the Chapter House. Absolutely beautiful. And you can see the original tiles are still on the floor. From 1125. From the 9th and 10th century, those tiles are still there. And the reason why those tiles are still there is because this was almost, if you like, this was kind of like the ballroom of this abbey. It's called the Chapter House, but obviously in them days that's what they named things, I suppose, like Chapter House and Parlour and, I don't know, Tower, and sort of kind of simple basic names. But this is the equivalent of the ballroom. And that is why those tiles are still there. So they run from the doorway right through to the middle of the room. I'll show you what they look like, so you can see. I think it's amazing to think that those tiles, and some of them have got designs on them, you can see some of them are like, you can see they've got like different patterns. Some of them have got like stars, flowers, we've got like acorn leaves. There's one there with like acorn leaves. And right in the centre, you've got like got all these different patterns. You can't really see them on the camera, but it's like, some of them are quite big. They're like circular. These ones here. You see there's a circle one there, look, there. But these are like all of the original tiles. And this is kind of like I said, like the ballroom. This is where they would have had entertainment. So you've got like your 3 windows at the back. Right at the back there. But this is like the ballroom. This is where they would have listened to music. This is where they would have, ate and drank and just kind of like, I don't know, hung out, like chilled out. But what a beautiful place to have it. I mean, obviously it would have been decorated. You can imagine it would have been decorated with maybe banners and flags, or I don't know, maybe armoury or armour, but yeah, this is where they would have done it. This is where they would have hung out, in here, in this beautiful, stunning ballroom. Absolutely crazy. Now, that is what's left of a tomb or a grave. It doesn't say who lays there. Oops, let's go that way. It doesn't say at all who's actually there. But that's a tomb. So obviously somebody connected to this abbey, whether it be a monk or somebody, is laid to rest just under there. But but you can see, if I just hold the camera up, if I show you, you can see what it's like in here. just absolutely beautiful. It's just beautiful here. And I'm just trying to imagine what it would have been like back then when people would have been in here chilling out and having a great time and drinking wine and ale and eating and listening to music. I mean, when I think of musicians back then, I think of people who played like lyres, it's like another name for kind of like a violin or something, you know, and like trumpets and that kind of thing. But yeah, this is really, and who's to say that they didn't have wedding ceremonies in here? You know, they could quite possibly have had wedding ceremonies, but that is why those tiles are on the floor. It's because this is kind of like the ballroom, if you like. So yeah, this is what it looks like. You can see just how beautiful it's decorated. Absolutely beautiful. It's the most beautiful abbey I've ever seen. It really is. But there you go. That's a look of the chapter house. You know, and if these walls could talk, you know, just I don't know. It's just so. To me, it's impressive. And I'm so glad that they let me film in here today. I mean, obviously I asked before I did anything, and I'm just so glad that they agreed to let me film in here today. But yeah, just to think what happened in here. I mean, it's not a very big room. It probably looks quite big to you. It is a fairly big room, but it's not huge. But it's just beautiful. It's stunning. You know, it's amazing to think I am standing and walking where all them years ago in the 9th and 10th century, monks and people from that era would have come in here and regaled, and I don't know, I just find it mind-blowing. I find it incredibly humbling to think that I am standing, and to think it's different when you walk, if I show you, it's different when you walk on that floor, but when you walk on the tiles, and you know that these are the original tiles from 1125, to think that people like that walked on these very tiles. It's just extraordinary, and I'm so glad that they've managed to preserve some of the tiles. So I'll just give you one last look. But yeah, chapter house or ballroom. But that's what it looks like. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. Thank you to everybody who's watching, by the way. Hi, thank you, and yes, it is absolutely beautiful here. I can see somebody said it looks lovely there. It is absolutely stunning. Oh, the sun's come out as well. Brilliant. So let's go a little bit further along, and then we'll go into the main kind of area, if you like, the main thing. But just give you one last look at the grounds, and let's give you a look at the abbey. That's the abbey there. Just absolutely beautiful. Now, there is there's a number of kind of small rooms, if you like, that they don't actually suggest what they were used for, and this is one of them. Okay, so I don't actually know what this was used for. However, there is a fairly large entrance that way. Obviously it's gated up, but there's a fairly large gate that way, so this could have been not the main entrance, if you like, but a side entrance for something. But I'm just being really, really vague, and obviously, as I've said on many occasions, I don't like to speculate too much, because I don't want to give you false information. This runs off the side of the abbey, the main area, almost like the altar end of the abbey. So this could have been where the monks may have come into this side part, and this might have had something to do with more of a private area for them. There's like small alcoves in the wall. There's one there, and there's one that side as well, just there. But if I just show you the brickwork, what it looks like. So this might have had, I don't know, this could have been, I don't know. It's so hard, and I get really frustrated when I can't tell you what I want, what I'd like to be able to tell you. I just don't like to guess or speculate too much. But this is just like a kind of entrance. Small. It's not really a room, it's more of a passageway. I don't know what would have happened in here. I don't think it would have had anything to do with like horses or anything. Maybe horses would have come through this way, and they may have been able to walk down them steps onto the carriage and vacate that way. It could have been. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have gone straight through, but they may have pulled up into this area. perhaps they came into this part of the abbey and had vegetables and things and materials and straw and hay parked here, and then they would have left that way. I just don't know. It's hard to say. But this is kind of next to the chapter house. So let's take it into the abbey itself. So we've got these kind of like small rooms either side. So we've got one this side and one the other side. Now here, I'll just show you. That's what's left of the night stairs. Now obviously they would have come all the way down to the floor. That's how you would have got up to the dormitory. So obviously it says that's back to front in Europe, it says night stairs. But that's what's left of the stairway. That would have gone up to the dormitory, so the people who lived here at the abbey would have come up these stairs. They may have gone, there's holes in the wall there, so they might have come up the side and gone up that way. And that's how you would have got up onto the dormitory up there. So that's where they would have lived. So you've got these two like nave or like archways. Now they're two separate rooms, but it doesn't say what they are. Okay, it doesn't say what they were used for. And there's one the other side. But I'm going to take it into the most impressive part, the most beautiful part of this abbey. Have a look at this. I think this is just stunning. Absolutely stunning. I'm going to give you a good look about it so you can see as I'm standing right in the centre. So that's the far end. You've got these beautiful archways. Then you come up. So it's looking back where we came from. You've got these enormous archways. And then you've got the front end. And if I pan the camera up, you can see what I mean. So that's what's left of the tower. There. See it? That's all that's left of it. So you can get an idea of what I mean. Now, as I mentioned, this abbey had 2 floors. So if you can see the first floor, you see where that, if I get my, see where that line is. So that would have been where the roof would have been, and then the next floor up is where the second floor would have been, and then you would have had a roof on top of that, a V roof, and that's what's left of the tower. I mentioned that's the front end. Now, guests would have come in through these doorways, so there would have been a number of doorways. Obviously you've got the archways anyway, but they were all doorways, every one of them. Halfway down, so roughly where the grass changes height, just about there, you had 2 partition walls. At the far end, that's the back of the abbey. There would have been almost like benches, like pews. So the pews would have been there up to the partition walls. Now the partition walls were there to keep the congregation away from the more holy part of the abbey, which is where I'm standing. So you can imagine there were pews lined up. That's where people would worship there. And then where the grass changes height, there you have partition walls. This is the more sacred end of the abbey. And then you've got the tower, and behind me you've got where the altar would have been. So there would have been an altar there. This is the most holy place. So we'll go and have, I mean there's nothing to see, but I'll just show you anyway. And that's called, you can see that's called Sedilia. Now I don't actually know what the Sedilia is, but that's roughly, I would imagine, where they would have stored. Now, I don't think there was a tomb or anybody there, but that's obviously where they would have kept something, or what's left of where they would have kept something. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to really look at what Sedilia means. That's what that is. So we're standing where the altar was, and this is all that's left. It's just the most beautiful abbey. It's got these 3 massive windows. Now, bearing in mind back in them days, in 1125, they didn't have stained glass windows. Most of the windows were open, so they wouldn't have had stained glass windows. So you have these 3 huge big windows. But this is where the altar would have stood, right here, and this is where the monks or the priests would have worshipped. They would have been right here. roughly was about the size of this space, and it's quite a large area. You can see columns across there, and then you had a cross, your standard crucifixion, if you like, just behind me, and this is where they would have prayed and worshipped. So that would have been where I'm standing, and then the congregation would have been down the far end, down the back end. So they would have looked this way. Now there's no indication of where the choir or orchestral kind of side of things would have played. Now it's possible they may have been in the far side, so they would have been that end, possibly. Okay, so they would have been there. But bearing in mind there was a second floor, so they might have been higher up. But it's very sketchy. But it's possible they might have been up there. But like, as I mentioned, the tower didn't have a bell or a clock or anything. It was more of an open tower, so it's quite open-aired, if you like, ventilated. So yes, so that kind of gives you an idea. So I'll just give you another look. So it's kind of runs down that way. So we'll walk towards the back, and then we'll kind of finish, because there's not really much else to show you. But let's walk down this way. But I just think if I just give it a look behind me, you can see what I mean about the size of this abbey, the scale of it, and to think that I'm walking where people were allowed to come and worship. So this is where the petition was. It would have been right here. You can't really see, but it's kind of there, where the grass stuff is. So that would have been where the petition was. It would have been roughly this bit here. Heading down towards the rear of the abbey. You can see anything. So this is the nave. Okay, so the nave part of the abbey. So the nave was always towards the back, and sometimes naves had wings that came out either side. Now there is a small section just outside there, so that was part of the nave as well, but this is the nave area. Now I'm not going to show you today, but dotted around these grounds are little wooden covers. They look like they look like little they're like wooden frames, and they've got like a lid on top. If you lift them up, there are what's left of the ceramic tiles. Now I'm not going to show any of you today. I mean, we're allowed to look, but I'm not going to show you any today. But there's just fragments of the original tiles still left within this abbey grounds. So not only the ones in the chapter house, but the ones that are left in the grounds itself. And that's all that's left. It's just extraordinary. I'll just give you one last look. So this is like the back of the abbey. So we're in the nave, and then above us, so you got the floor that would have been just where that line is there. That's where the roof would have been, and then you've got the second floor up above, and then the roof on top. And then you can see. So you can see what's left of the roof line there, and that's looking all the way towards the front, towards the altar. So it's a massive abbey. It's huge. I mean, I'm hoping that you can kind of appreciate the scale of it, if you like, on the camera, but it is enormous. It's massive, and it's a beautiful abbey. It really is. And to think that I'm standing where people were allowed to come and worship. Can you imagine coming, being able to come in here and worship? The sound. I mean, I'm just trying to picture, if you like, all the wood and the panelling and how it would have been decorated, how it would have sounded, what kind of music would have been played, how that would have sounded. The monks being right at the far end, towards the other end, where the altar and the sacred items and things were. Obviously you had like your Bible, and you had your crucifix, you had your candles, often you had not sacrificial, but you had sacred or holy items. So sometimes it was like a vase or vase, a basin, like ceremonial kind of things, if you like. And then you had things like, sometimes you had like your, I don't know what they called them. I'm just trying to think, like a sash, or kind of like a sacred, or like a sacred runner that would run over the top of the altar. So it had like tassels and things on it, embroidered with silk. I know that in these particular of times things like purple silk and gold and that kind of things were often intertwined into wool and cotton and stuff like that. So just trying to capture some things, just trying to think of some stuff. But obviously your imagination will give you your own opinion. But yeah, can you imagine standing here and looking that way and worshipping and just hearing? That's what it's like in here. So I'm going to finish there because there's nothing really else much for me to show you. I'm just conscious that maybe today's broadcast maybe it hasn't been as interesting or as good as previous broadcasts, and obviously I can understand and appreciate that. And sometimes when you come to something like a castle, or in particular abbeys tend to, not always, but sometimes abbeys can be a lot older than castle ruins. When you come to abbey ruins, sometimes it can be very, very difficult to kind of really pinpoint and give you accurate information or an accurate account or an accurate kind of tour, if you like, because they're so old. And so I'm aware that today's broadcast has been very kind of vague and sketchy in a way, but obviously as I mentioned on previous occasions, I don't like to kind of exaggerate, and I don't want to give you false information, because that's not the purpose behind this documentary. Obviously I want to give you all the information that I can, as near or as close to factual as I possibly can. And obviously you are more than welcome to Google Buildwas Abbey anyway in Shropshire, on the border of Shropshire and Wales, just outside Telford, about 7 miles away from Telford. But yes, you're more than welcome to Google this place. Yeah, that's kind of the end of the podcast, really. As I mentioned, different places sometimes are just easier, if you like. About those places are sometimes a lot easier to talk to you about than the places like this, because they're just so old that it's very difficult to kind of give you, that kind of information. But I'm hoping that you found this broadcast interesting, and I appreciate that it was very different from the ones I've done before. This is only the second abbey or priory ruin location that I've done, but I will do some more, because I do think it's important to capture these places as well as our average abandoned and derelict places, because at the end of the day, even though this isn't actually abandoned and derelict, it still is, if you look at an abandoned derelict ruined place, and I think it's important to capture these places as well. And not only that, I just want to try and vary the places that I take you. I don't want to just take you to abandoned derelict places. I want to try and vary the locations for you to make it a bit more interesting. So I'm hoping you found this interesting. Hopefully you liked what you saw. That's kind of the end of the broadcast, really. There's nothing really more else I can show you or tell you. So yeah, but thank you for joining me. Like I said, I'm just aware that I'm just aware that maybe today's hasn't perhaps been as interesting or as previous ones, but sometimes, when you visit these locations, some places are more interesting, some places are easier to give you that information about than others, and this is one of those places that's quite hard. It's been, I have found it quite hard to really try and make this. I've tried my best to make it as interesting for you as possible, but sometimes it's hard to make it interesting when you haven't really got a lot to go on. But I'm hoping that what you can see has made up for that. And not only that, I'm really cold, so I'm so sorry. Today's broadcast has been probably quite shaky. I'm really cold, even though it's not freezing cold. It's cold. But thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in for watching this 29th episode. So yeah, hopefully, I don't want to say too much. Obviously, I don't want to tell you when or where, but fear not. Within the next 2 days, hopefully, now I say hopefully, I don't want to say definitely, just in case I can't do it, but hopefully within the next 2 days, either tomorrow or Friday, will be episode 30, series 2. I'm Okay, so this is episode 29 of series 1, so this is the end of series 1. Episode 2 will start in our next live broadcast, and I'm hoping it's going to be either tomorrow or Friday, and I'm not going to, as I mentioned, I'm not going to say when exactly or where we're going. However, it is going to be something totally different, so it will be, if I can do it, it will be an abandoned and derelict location that we haven't done yet in the entire series, so it will be something totally and completely different altogether. So I'm hoping that you will join me for that live broadcast either tomorrow or Friday, when we will be away from Birmingham altogether. In fact, we are going to be, I'll give you a clue, well, I say a clue, we're going to be in Staffordshire. Okay, so we're going to be completely away. We're going to be about 60, 70, 80, 90 miles away, I don't know. We're going to be quite far away from Birmingham in Staffordshire, and we are going to be looking at an abandoned derelict location there. That's what I'm going to tell you. But it's something that we've never done before, and I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to do it. Hopefully I can do it, because it will make a really interesting and fascinating live broadcast. So hopefully you will join me for episode 30, series 2. I'm going to finish and make my way all the way back to Telford. Another 2.5 hour walk. Great. But it's been worth it, because I really wanted to bring you here today, because I'm just really sorry I couldn't bring you to that place in Doncaster, but it just wasn't possible. Absolutely couldn't do it. There you go. That's the hazards of doing these documentaries. Some places you can, some places you can't. So there you go. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching. Yeah, take care. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to walk back to Telford and head home, and then hopefully tomorrow, Friday, you will be able to join me right here live on Facebook for our 30th episode of series 2, the start of series 2, and hopefully you won't be disappointed. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll give you one last look at this place, Buildwas Abbey in Shropshire, right on the borderline of Shropshire and Wales. So I'll give you one last look before we go. Just gonna have one last look from this stunning abbey. There you go. So until then, bye for now. See you soon, right here on Facebook for episode 30, coming to you very, very soon. So watch this spacey, wacy. Take care. Bye bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.